I used to think I had it all figured out. A beautiful home in Seattle's Queen and neighborhood, a successful career as a software engineer at Amazon, and what I believed was a perfect marriage to Catherine Kate, as everyone called her. She was everything I ever wanted: brilliant, beautiful, with those mesmerizing green eyes and auburn hair that seemed to catch fire in the sunlight. A rising star in the English literature department at the University of Washington, my wife of 5 years that I remember the exact moment when my perfect world began to crumble. It was a rainy Tuesday evening in October, typical Seattle weather. I was working from home, trying to fix a bug in our family iPad that had been acting up since the latest iOS update. Kate was at the university, teaching her evening seminar on Victorian literature, or so I thought. The iPad had been syncing strangely with our iCloud account, duplicating photos and messages across devices. As I was clearing out the duplicate files, a notification popped up, a message from someone named Tom M. I wouldn't have thought twice about it, except for the preview text that flashed across the screen. Missing you already. Last night was, my heart stopped. I knew I shouldn't look. Kate valued her privacy, and we'd always respected each other's personal space. But something felt wrong. The message disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, but the damage was done. A seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few weeks, I noticed subtle changes in Kate's behavior. She started working later, attending more faculty meetings and academic conferences. Her phone was always face down, and she'd changed her password from my birthday to something I didn't know. Small things, really, but they added up like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to complete. Kate had always been ambitious. When she started at UW 3 years ago, she was the youngest professor in her department. Dean Thomas Mitchell had taken her under his wing, mentoring her through the tenure track process. I'd met him at faculty events, tall, distinguished-looking, with silver hair and that aristocratic bearing that seemed to command respect. He was always professional, always proper. Too proper, perhaps, that I remember the last happy evening we had together, before everything fell apart. We were celebrating her recent publication in a prestigious academic journal. I'd made her favorite dinner, wild mushroom risotto, and opened a bottle of the Barolo we'd been saving. She was wearing that blue dress I loved, her hair cascading over her shoulders, and for a moment, she was my Kate again, not the distant, preoccupied woman she'd become. "I'm so lucky to have you," she'd said, kissing me softly. Was she already seeing him then? Was every kiss, every tender moment in the past months just part of her elaborate deception? The next day, while Kate was teaching, I decided to do a proper backup of our devices. That's when I discovered that the iPad sync issue wasn't a bug at all. It was pulling data from multiple devices linked to our family account, including Kate's iPhone. My hands trembled as I opened the message folder. There they were, hundreds of messages between Kate and Tom M. I felt sick as I read through them, each word like a knife twisting in my gut. The messages went back nearly 2 years. 2 years of lies, of secret meetings, of betrayal so deep it took my breath away. "Can't wait to see you in my office hours," one message read. "Last night was amazing. The way you touched me." Another began. "When are you leaving him?" Tom had asked just last week. "Soon," Kate had replied. "I just need more time." I sat there in our home office, surrounded by photos of our life together, our wedding day, vacations, holiday gatherings with family, and felt like I was looking at scenes from someone else's life. The Kate in those photos, with her radiant smile and loving eyes, seemed like a stranger now. The rain had started again, drumming against the windows as I began to formulate a plan. I wouldn't confront her yet. No, I needed to know everything first. Every detail, every lie, every betrayal. And then, only then, would I decide how to proceed. I heard her key in the door downstairs. "James, I'm home," her voice called out, sweet as honey and just as false. I closed the iPad, took a deep breath, and prepared to play my part in this charade. But inside, something had changed. The trust was gone, shattered like a mirror, reflecting back 1,000 broken pieces of what we used to be. Little did Kate know, her carefully constructed world of lies was about to come crashing down, and I would be the one to pull the trigger. The next morning, I called in sick to work. As soon as Kate left for her 9 a.m. lecture, I began my investigation in earnest. The iPad had become a Pandora's box of secrets, and I couldn't stop myself from looking deeper. Each swipe revealed another layer of deception, another crack in the foundation of our marriage. The messages between Kate and Dean Mitchell painted a picture that made me physically ill. They'd been meeting in his private office after hours, in a boutique hotel downtown, and even, my stomach churned, in our vacation cabin on Lake Chelan. The same cabin where we'd spent our honeymoon. The cabin is perfect, she'd written to him. James never goes there anymore. Too busy with work. You're exquisite in the moonlight, he'd replied. Can't wait for our next weekend away. I found myself scrolling through our old photos, trying to pinpoint when everything changed. When did my wife become this stranger? There was a faculty Christmas party from 2 years ago. Kate in a stunning red dress, standing between me and Dean Mitchell. His hand was on her lower back, and now I could see what I'd missed then. The way they were angled toward each other, the secret smile they shared, the slight flush on her cheeks. Using my tech background, I began recovering deleted messages and photos. What I found shattered any remaining doubt. There were intimate photos she'd sent him, taken in our bedroom, in the lingerie I'd bought her for our anniversary. Messages planning their rendezvous around my business trips. They'd even created a shared calendar under a fake book club name to coordinate their meetings. But something else caught my attention: references to university funding and grant proposals. The board won't ask questions if we present it right, Mitchell had written. Just make sure the numbers match what we discussed. This wasn't just a simple affair. There was something bigger, something that went beyond personal betrayal and into professional misconduct. I started downloading everything, securing the evidence on an encrypted drive. Years of working in cybersecurity had taught me the importance of backing up data. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text from Kate. Working late tonight. Don't wait up for dinner. The casual line made my blood boil. I checked the shared calendar. There was an entry for Victorian Literature Study Group at 7 p.m. But a message to Mitchell revealed the truth. Booked us a room at the Fairmont. Can't wait. I needed air. Grabbing my jacket, I headed to Pioneer Square for coffee. That's when I ran into Sarah, a junior professor from Kate's department. The color drained from her face when she saw me. James, how are you? She asked, her discomfort obvious. Fine, I replied, studying her reaction. Just getting some coffee while Kate's at the university. She shifted nervously. Right, yes. She must be busy with everything. Sarah knew. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. How many others knew? How long had I been the oblivious husband? The joke of the faculty lounge. Back home, I dove deeper into the digital evidence. Email exchanges showed Mitchell had been instrumental in fast-tracking Kate's tenure review. There were discussions about research grants, funding allocations that didn't quite add up. My wife wasn't just sleeping with the dean, she was complicit. In something that could destroy both their careers, I found myself looking at our wedding photo on the mantle. Kate was radiant in her white dress, looking at me with what I thought was love. Now I wondered if she'd ever really loved me at all, or if I was just a convenient cover for her ambitions. The sound of rain against the windows matched my darkening mood. I poured myself a whiskey and started composing an email to a friend who worked as a private investigator. I needed more than just digital evidence. I needed to know everything. As I typed, another message notification popped up on the iPad. Kate to Mitchell. He doesn't suspect a thing. We're almost there. Almost where? What else were they planning? The questions multiplied, but one thing was becoming clear. This went far beyond a simple affair. And if Kate thought I was an oblivious fool who wouldn't fight back, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. I took another sip of whiskey and began formulating a plan. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn that in the digital age, every secret leaves a trace. And I was very, very good at following digital breadcrumbs. The private investigator's report landed in my encrypted email the following week. John, my old college friend, had been thorough. The photographs showed Kate and Mitchell entering the Fairmont Hotel on multiple occasions, having intimate dinners at secluded restaurants, and even walking hand in hand through the Washington Park Arboretum, a place she'd told me she went to grade papers in solitude. But what caught my attention wasn't the evidence of their affair I'd already accepted. That bitter truth. It was the other meetings documented in John's report. Mitchell and Kate had been meeting with various board members, having hushed conversations in coffee shops and private clubs. One name kept appearing: Robert Chun, the university's chief financial officer, that I spent my lunch break the next day digging through the university's publicly available financial records. Most of it was standard academic bureaucracy, but certain research grants stood out. Large sums of money allocated to projects under Kate's supervision, approved by Mitchell, with vague descriptions and minimal documentation. Found something interesting. A voice behind me made me jump. It was Sarah, the junior professor I'd met in Pioneer Square. She looked nervous but determined that we move to a quiet corner of the campus coffee shop. Sarah's hands trembled as she spoke. "I've wanted to tell you for months, but I was afraid. They threatened my position when I questioned the numbers." The story she told made my blood run cold. Mitchell and Kate had been manipulating research grants, inflating budgets, and diverting funds. The affair was just a part of their collaboration. They'd created a complex web of academic fraud, using Kate's charm and Mitchell's authority to silence anyone who asked questions. "There's more," Sarah whispered, sliding a USB drive across the table. "Email exchanges, doctored budget reports. I've been collecting evidence, but I didn't know what to do with it." Back home, I spent hours going through Sarah's files. The scope of their deception was staggering. Not only had Kate betrayed our marriage, but she'd also corrupted everything I thought she stood for: academic integrity, intellectual honesty, professional ethics. That evening, Kate came home later than usual. Her cheeks were flushed, hair slightly disheveled. "Rough day at the office?" I asked casually, watching her compose herself in the hallway mirror. "Just tired," she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "The tenure committee is demanding so much documentation." More lies. According to Sarah's files, Kate's tenure had been quietly approved months ago, pushed through by Mitchell despite concerns from other committee members that I excused myself to the home office, claiming work deadlines. Instead, I began organizing all the evidence: the iPad messages, John's surveillance photos, Sarah's documents, the financial records. A pattern emerged, showing not just an affair, but a calculated scheme of academic fraud and financial manipulation. My phone buzzed, a message from John. "You need to see this." Attached was a video from earlier that day. Kate and Mitchell at a real estate office, signing papers. Were they planning to run away together? Or was this part of their larger scheme? I felt the walls of our home closing in, every happy memory now tainted by suspicion. The framed photo of us in Paris, where she'd insisted on a weekend extension to her conference trip. Had she met him there too? The art piece she'd brought home from a department fundraiser. Was it bought with stolen grant money? My laptop pinged with an incoming email. It was from Robert Chun, the CFO, responding to an anonymous tip I'd sent about financial irregularities in the English department's research grants. "This is concerning. Would you be willing to meet?" I stared at the email for a long time, weighing my options. Going to the CFO could blow everything wide open, potentially destroying Kate's career along with Mitchell's. Part of me, the part that remembered our wedding vows, that still ached for the woman I thought I'd married, hesitated. Then I heard Kate's phone buzz downstairs. Her laugh floated up to my office, that special laugh I once thought was just for me. Now I knew better. I clicked reply to Chin's email and started typing. The time for hesitation was over. They thought they were so clever, covering their tracks, building their perfect escape. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail. Never underestimate a man with nothing left to lose and the skills to uncover every digital footprint they'd left behind. The game was about to change, and I was ready to play for keeps. The meeting with Robert Chin took place in a private room at the Seattle Athletic Club. He arrived with two members of the university's internal audit team, their faces grave as they reviewed the evidence I'd compiled. "This is extensive," Chin said, flipping through the documents. "How long have you been gathering this information?" I told them everything, except for the personal details of Kate's infidelity. That pain was mine alone to bear. The auditor's eyes widened as I walked them through the financial trails, the manipulated grant applications, the falsified research expenses. "There's something else," one auditor said, pulling up additional records on her laptop. "These properties, purchased through the department's Cultural Preservation Initiative, they're all owned by shell companies." My heart sank as I recognized the addresses. The real estate office Kate and Mitchell had visited wasn't about running away together. It was part of their scheme. They'd been using grant money to buy properties under the guise of preserving historical literary landmarks, then transferring them to private ownership through a maze of shell companies. That evening, I drove to one of the addresses. It was a beautiful Victorian house in Capitol Hill, recently renovated. Through the window, I could see Kate and Mitchell inside, sharing wine, laughing. My wife looked radiant in a dress I'd never seen before, her hand casually resting on Mitchell's knee as I sat in my car, watching them, feeling strangely detached. This woman, who moved with such confidence, who smiled so easily at her lover, was a stranger to me. The Kate I knew, or thought I knew, would never have orchestrated such an elaborate fraud. That my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Emergency meeting called for tomorrow. Mitchell knows something's up. I drove home to find Kate already there, working on her laptop at the kitchen island. She looked up with a smile that once made my heart race. Now it just made me sick. "You're home early," she said, closing her laptop quickly. "I thought you had a late meeting." "It got canceled." I lied smoothly, noting how easily deception came now. "How was your day?" "Oh, the usual. Departmental politics, student, papers to grade." She stretched, her wedding ring catching the light. I wondered if she ever took it off during her afternoons with Mitchell. Later that night, I lay awake listening to her steady breathing beside me. My phone silently collected notifications from the tracking software I'd installed on her devices. Messages between her and Mitchell were flying back and forth, panic evident in their tone. "Someone's asking questions about the grants. Stay calm. We've covered our tracks. The board meeting tomorrow. We need to be prepared." I smiled in the darkness. They had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I kissed Kate goodbye as she left for the emergency meeting. She was wearing her power suit, navy blue, impeccably tailored, her armor for battle. "Good luck with your meeting," I said. "Thanks. Honey, don't wait up tonight. It might run late." As soon as she left, I went to work. First, I sent an encrypted file to every board member, evidence of the fraud, the property schemes, everything except the affair. That was my ace in the hole. Then I called John. "Is everything ready?" "All set. The CFO's office will receive the full financial audit during the meeting. The real estate documentation is being delivered to the university's legal team as we speak." I logged into our joint accounts and began executing the plan I'd been preparing for weeks. Transfers, documentation, protection of assets, everything legal, everything documented. Kate and Mitchell thought they were clever with their shell companies and hidden accounts. But they weren't the only ones who knew how to move money. Sarah texted again. "Mitchell just arrived. Kate's with him." The board looked serious. I sat in my home office, surrounded by the evidence of our life together, photos, cards, memories. In one frame, Kate and I stood on a beach in Maui, newlyweds with salt-tangled hair and sun-kissed skin. Real happiness, real love. Or so I'd thought. My laptop pinged with an incoming email from the university's legal department, confirming receipt of my documentation. The wheels were in motion. By the end of the day, Kate's carefully constructed world would crumble. But as I sat there, waiting for the inevitable explosion, I felt no joy, no satisfaction. Only a deep, aching sadness for what could have been, for the love I thought we shared, for the future we'd planned together. The storm was about to break, and there would be no shelter from the rain. The university board meeting was still in session when my phone started buzzing with messages. Sarah was keeping me updated. "They're reviewing the financial documents now." Kate looks pale. Mitchell keeps trying to interject, but the board chair shut him down. I sat in my lawyer's office, watching Seattle's endless rain through the window. Barbara, my attorney, was reviewing the final documents we'd prepared. "Everything's in order," she confirmed. "The evidence of financial misconduct is overwhelming. Once the university makes its decision, we'll file for divorce immediately." My phone lit up with a call from Kate. I let it go to voicemail, imagining her panic, her desperate need to warn me, to explain, to spin another web of lies. The voicemail notification appeared moments later. "James, please, I need to talk to you. There's been a misunderstanding at work. I'll explain everything. Please call me back. I love you." Her voice cracked on those last 3 words. Once, they would have broken my heart. Now they just sounded hollow, like lines from a play sheet. Rehearsed too many times. Barbara looked at me sympathetically. Are you sure you want to go through with the full exposure? We could negotiate a quieter settlement. I shook my head. They didn't just betray me. They betrayed their students, their colleagues, the entire university. Actions have consequences. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mitchell himself. Whatever you think you know, you're making a mistake. Let's talk about this like reasonable men. I showed the message to Barbara, who added it to our documentation. Classic intimidation attempt, she noted. He's realizing his position is compromised. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The university's legal team contacted Barbara, confirming they were moving forward with formal charges. The police were being notified about the financial fraud. Sarah sent updates about Kate and Mitchell being escorted from the building. Their offices sealed for investigation. I drove home through the rain, knowing Kate would be waiting. Sure enough, her car was in the driveway, along with Mitchell's luxury sedan. They were sitting in our living room, both looking shell-shocked. "How could you do this to me?" Kate demanded as I walked in, her green eyes flashing with anger and fear. "Everything I've worked for, everything we've built, everything you've stolen." "You mean?" I corrected quietly. "The grants, the properties, the lies. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Mitchell stood, attempting to assert authority he no longer possessed. "Listen, James, this is all a misunderstanding. We can work something out." I pulled out my phone and played a recording, them discussing the property schemes, the fraudulent grants, their plans to disappear once everything was in place. Their faces drained of color. "That's illegal," Mitchell sputtered. "You can't record private conversations." "Actually, Washington is a two-party consent state," I agreed. "But these were recorded in public places. You should be more careful where you discuss your crimes." Kate stepped toward me, her hand outstretched. "James, please. I can explain everything. Yes, I made mistakes, but I love you. Stop." My voice was ice. "The affair I could have maybe forgiven. But the fraud? Using our marriage as a cover while you stole from students, from the university? That's unforgivable." Mitchell's phone rang, the university president's office. He stepped out to take the call, leaving Kate and me alone. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Now, the police are probably preparing search warrants. The university's lawyers are filing charges. And Barbara is submitting our divorce papers first. Thing tomorrow." She sank onto the couch, her perfect facade finally cracking. "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "I learned from the best," I replied without emotion. "You taught me how to plan, how to hide, how to betray. Consider this, your final lesson." Mitchell burst back in, his face ashen. "They're suspending all department funding. There's a police investigation. You should both leave," I said, opening the front door. "Your lawyers will be contacting you soon. And Kate, don't forget to turn in your key." They left in separate cars, their perfect plan in ruins. I stood in our empty house, surrounded by the remnants of our life together, feeling nothing but a hollow victory. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Sarah. "The board is calling an emergency press conference for tomorrow." It's over. Yes, it was over. But as I poured myself a drink and watched the rain, I wondered if winning felt this empty for Kate when she was orchestrating her own betrayals. Tomorrow would bring chaos, press coverage, police interviews, legal proceedings. But tonight, in the quiet aftermath of destruction, I finally felt free. 1 year later, I sat in my new apartment overlooking Lake Union, watching the morning news. Kate's sentencing was the lead story. Former University of Washington professor Katherine Anderson sentenced to 4 years in prison for academic fraud and embezzlement. The camera showed her being led away in handcuffs, her designer suit replaced by prison orange, her once perfect hair limp and graying at the roots. Thomas Mitchell had received 6 years, his longer sentence reflecting his position of authority and his role as the scheme's architect. The university had recovered most of the stolen funds, though their reputation would take longer to rebuild. Sarah had been promoted to department chair, her whistleblower status and integrity making her the perfect choice to clean up the English department. She'd stopped by my office at Amazon last week, bringing coffee and news. "The last of the properties has been sold," she'd told me. "The money's been returned to the Grant Foundation. It's really over." The divorce had been finalized. Months ago, Kate had tried to claim half our assets, but evidence of her financial crimes made that impossible. She'd lost everything: her career, her freedom, her reputation. The woman who had so carefully planned her ascent had orchestrated her own downfall that I opened my laptop, scrolling through emails. The book deal had been confirmed yesterday. My story of uncovering the fraud would be published next spring. The advance was generous, but I'd already decided to donate it to a scholarship fund for English literature students. A final twist of the knife, perhaps, but one that felt right. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa, the corporate lawyer I'd been seeing for the past 2 months. Dinner tonight? That new Italian place on Capitol Hill. I smiled, typing back a quick confirmation. Life was moving forward, slowly but surely. The pain hadn't disappeared entirely, but it had transformed into something manageable, almost educational. The doorbell rang. John, right on time for our weekly coffee. He'd become a close friend through all of this, his investigative skills, matched by his emotional support during the darkest days. Saw the news, he said, settling into my living room chair. How are you feeling? I considered the question carefully. Vindicated, I suppose, but mostly just free. Have you heard from her at all? She sent a letter from prison last month. I didn't open it. The envelope sat in my desk drawer, Kate's precise handwriting unchanged despite everything. Some doors were better left closed. That we talked about other things. Work, his new baby, plans for the summer. Normal life, moving forward one day at a time. Later that evening, as I got ready for dinner with Lisa, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I looked different, older perhaps, but also stronger. The naive trust was gone from my eyes, replaced by something harder, wiser. My phone buzzed with an email notification, the university press office. They were announcing a new ethics oversight committee, implemented in response to the scandal. I was being invited to serve as a civilian advisor, my technology background and personal experience making me uniquely qualified. That I thought about declining, about walking away from anything connected to that part of my life. But something made me pause. Maybe there was value in using this pain to prevent others from suffering the same fate. The rain had stopped, a rare clear evening in Seattle. From my window, I could see the university campus in the distance, its buildings lit up against the darkening sky. So much had changed in a year, yet the world kept turning, healing, moving forward. I picked up my keys, heading out to meet Lisa. In my pocket, my phone buzzed one last time, a news alert. Former Dean Thomas Mitchell to face additional charges. An expanding fraud investigation. I smiled slightly, tucking the phone away. Some stories never really end. They just keep unfolding, revealing new chapters, new lessons. I drove through the city. I thought about Kate in her prison cell, Mitchell facing more charges, the carefully constructed facade of their lives completely shattered. They'd thought themselves so clever, so above it all. But in the end, the truth had a way of surfacing, one digital trace at a time. The Italian restaurant came into view, Lisa waiting outside in a blue dress that reminded me of nothing and no one. Just the present moment, the possibility of something new. I parked the car, straightened my jacket, and stepped forward into the next chapter of my life. The revenge had been sweet, yes, but the real victory was in surviving, in rebuilding, in learning to trust again, not blindly, but wisely. Some scars would always remain, but they were proof of healing, not just of harm. And as I opened the restaurant door, greeting Lisa with a smile, I realized that the best revenge wasn't in destroying Kate's world, it was in building a new one of my own, stronger and wiser than before, the end. Or perhaps, more accurately, a new beginning.